people have strong feelings on it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make or break a script. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Megan. I'm an aspiring screenwriter and I write script coverage for screenwriting competitions, and that's actually exactly what I want to talk to you guys about today. You know, I'm not somebody who's been writing scripts since I was 6, 7, 8 years old, just dreaming for the day that I'd be working in the entertainment industry. I've wanted to be a writer since I knew it was a job. But the actual screenwriting part of it and writing scripts and working with TV and all of that, that didn't come until much, much later. I was in college by the time that I realized that I wanted to write scripts. And when I first realized that, it was really, really intimidating and daunting to me. And when I got the opportunity to start doing script coverage and reading other people's scripts and analyzing them, it opened up this whole new world to me, and I started to feel much more familiar and comfortable in the world of scripts and my ability to write them. I learned so much about my own writing through reading other people's. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about how I go about writing script coverage and just what sticks out to me when I'm reading a script, either good or bad, that makes such a difference. And these are the things that taught me how to do all of this better in my own script. So I hope that this can be helpful for you guys too, because it's made such a difference for my writing, and if I can share that, I want to in any way that I can. Now, if I'm working with a company for their screenwriting competitions to provide coverage and feedback, they usually have their own form that I'll fill out. I always like to fill out the synopsis while I'm reading so I don't kind of forget any details or anything like that. And then usually there'll be a comment section, and I write out notes for the comment section while I'm reading, and then after I finish, I go through and kind of organize that into how I want my comments to be formatted. And then if I think of anything else while I'm reading, like comps or the genre that I want to put, something like that, if it just kind of occurs to me while I'm reading, I'll go ahead and fill that out. If not, once I'm done reading, I go through, I fill out all of those extra things that are on the form, and then I save the comments for last. I feel like that's a good way for me to look at everything I filled out, pull it all together in one place, and then if somebody has ordered feedback notes, which is, you know, an additional amount of notes that goes to the reader, not internally, I will write that first and then take that and turn that into my comments as well, because I'm going to be saying similar things. Now, if I'm working with somebody more personally on giving comments and feedback on their script, I go about this a little bit differently. Very, very soon, I'm going to be offering freelance script coverage. I don't have it quite up yet, but that's going to hopefully be up very, very soon. So let me know in the comment section if you would be interested in getting script coverage from me. Hopefully in the next couple of months, I'll have it out and you guys will be the first to know as soon as it's live. But let me know what you think. Do you want to get script coverage from me? Would that be interesting? If I'm working on, you know, script coverage more personally, I do it a little bit differently. And once I have my script coverage freelance site set up, I will have my own official form and all of that. But for the time being, what I usually do is I will get myself set up, I'll have the script on one screen, and then I will open up just like a document. Then as I read, I like to do page by page notes. Every single page won't necessarily have a note, but if I think of something while I'm reading, I will write down the page. Sometimes I'll even write down the scene and give my note. So it's really easy for the writer to go back and know exactly what I'm referring to. And it just makes cleanups easier. If there's a typo, something like that, the writer doesn't have to scroll through and hope to catch the same typo that I saw. But I only do that more for individual script coverage, not for a competition, something like that. That's not really what people tend to expect out of competition feedback notes. I'll discuss anything that particularly stood out to me or anything like that. And once I finish reading, I like to, at the top of the page, put a kind of more general notes together, going over just the big things that I thought worked or could use some more work. That's kind of my general process when it comes to reading scripts and writing coverage. But I want to go into what are the things that stand out to me and the things that I notice when I'm reading a script that are going to make an impact in my reading experience and how I feel about the script overall. The first thing is the writer's voice. And this was something I was like nails on a chalkboard to me hearing this term, because I was like, I don't know what you mean. Like, I had such a hard time figuring out where my writer's voice was. Writing with scripts has helped a lot. And then when I started reading scripts, what I realized was the problem with my writing voice and my writing was that it felt formulaic. I knew the steps to writing and I did them. And sometimes what can happen is when you're learning all these, writing rules, is that you start to see the writing as a formula, and it makes your writing feel like a formula. So, sometimes I'll see scripts where it just boom, 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 and the sentence structure will be repetitive and things like that. And that makes it feel kind of droney and like there's not that voice there. Next is your dialogue. As you know, with a script, your dialogue is the thing that interacts most with the audience as far as your control over the script and the story. And if your dialogue feels cliche, if it feels written, if it feels like you're trying to preach to the audience, which I've mentioned this before, but I don't only mean that you are literally your character standing on a soapbox preaching. This also refers to if it feels like the writer is trying to get a message across to the audience, automatically feels preachy to me, and it very, very rarely works. Very rarely. So you want to make sure that your dialogue feels smooth and natural. A great way to kind of test that is to read it out loud. Even better if you have a group of friends that you can do a table read with. Make sure these are people that you trust. Maybe even find a group of writer friends that you can do this with. Then your description and action lines. This is basically what's in a scene that's not dialogue, is pretty much gonna be description or action lines. The general rule of thumb is that each paragraph of your action, description, whatever, should not be more than 4 lines long. Not 4 sentences, but 4 lines up and down. The reason for that is that you don't want those lines to feel dense. It's gonna drag the pacing and it's gonna make the entire experience take much longer, and a lot of the times the things that are included there are not necessary in the slightest. So you want to make sure that those lines are not dense, that they're not dragging the pacing, that you're not including things that can't be shown on screen. So if you're saying that the character is sad or even looks sad, not super helpful. Try adding things that are more actionable. So if the character's embarrassed, you can say that character A averts their eyes and takes a step back before turning their head. I don't know, whatever. Something more actionable. There's not only is that more grounded and going to give a much better description, but it's something that can be shown on a screen. The other thing is that sometimes description and action, all of those kind of things, can feel like prose. And I know that that's sometimes a confusing thing to hear. What I mean by that is, does it sound like you're reading a book? And I know that still might be a little confusing. I can do a video going much further into detail on this and discussing it. Let me know if you want to see that in the comment section. Then let's talk about structure. Most stories have this 3-act structure. Sometimes it's a little bit different with TV and things like that, but you've got your act structure and you can decide how you want to format that. But there are ways that those work. If Act 1 is half of your script, that's a problem and it's gonna come across really, really clearly. So making sure that your acts, your structure, how the whole thing is organized makes sense and works is super important, because when I'm reading a script where that isn't the case, I'm distracted by it, and you never want to take the reader out of the story. You never want the person not focused on the things you want them focused on. Now, there are ways to play around with things, and sometimes things do benefit your story by being wrong, but you want to be really, really careful to make sure that's actually going to come across right, and you run the risk of having people not get it and having it not land how you want it to. Format. There are things that are up to personal preference, and there are things that are not. Bolding your slug lines, up to you. It really does not matter that much. We see, people have strong feelings on it, but at the end of the day, it's not gonna make or break a script. Unless like every sentence is we see, that's a problem, but including one here or there, and as long as you're not overloading your script with it, again, not a problem. You want to be consistent in your formatting, so if you're bolding your slug lines, you're bolding all of them. But things like that, not the biggest deal. Having slug lines, absolutely necessary. The things that are personal preference and it doesn't make that big of a difference, up to you. You do what you want to do. But the basic building blocks of script structure need to be done right because it immediately makes your scripts look unprofessional. Your characters, are they relatable? Do I have a reason to care about them? Is there something real happening with them? And do they have an arc? Do they go through a transformation or do they stay the same the whole time? Why am I rooting for them? If I'm not rooting for your characters, the script, automatically I'm like, okay, whatever, like I'm just not connected to it. And I think that it is important to show growth with characters, but if you start them in such a place that I don't like them, it's hard to then root for them unless there's a change that happens immediately. And that's hard to do while making it seem natural. So you just want to make sure you don't pull your characters too far in the hopes of giving them a growth to have. Growth does not need to be the biggest thing ever to still be significant. Going off of that, how does the story work? Is there a story? Is there a plot? Is there conflict happening? Because sometimes you read a story that it's just like things are technically happening, but it just feels so straightforward. Thing A happens, thing B happens, thing C happens, and yada yada yada, on we go. A story is being told, but is there a plot to that story? Is it a story that I'm interested in? Do I want to keep reading? If this is a pilot, can I see where the rest of the series or season is going? Is there a promise that's been made about what I can expect from future episodes that will be adhered to? Does the story go somewhere and really support the characters and the world and everything else you've built up around it? Because I've read really good scripts that have a lot going right, and the story just falls flat, and that makes a huge impact. That can tank a script where you have so much going right and so much working, but the story just isn't there. Something that I do consider, though it's not the most important thing, is how this script fits into the current market. It doesn't have to be like super PC or whatever. Like, you can talk about difficult subjects and things like that. It needs to be respectful. It needs to not be offensive, but you don't have to have like super cutesy, nice, fun scripts. That's not what I'm saying. But look at the market. Look at what audiences will accept and what they're interested in. I'm also not saying to write a vampire movie because everything's about vampire movies right now. You need to write the stories that are important to you because that's the only way you're gonna write authentic stories. But the current market is something to consider. And you can look deeper. Is there a reason people are interested in vampires? Think about the psychology. Don't just treat an audience like, oh, they're all stupid, they only care about vampires. Okay, then you don't respect your audience, and anything you're gonna make is going to feel that, is going to show that. So doesn't matter what you make, that will be rooted in it. You just have to think a little bit. Again, this should not be everything, but think about the current market, think about what's coming out, think about why, think about, you know, Hunger Games and all those dystopians came from a historical context of the time and the moment and what people were feeling. When you do literary analysis, which not everybody who's a script reader has, I've done it because I was an English major, but when you're doing literary analysis, you have to think about the historical context of Shakespeare, of Mary Shelley. Like, all of these things fit into their time, and there's a reason they work. Even if they didn't work then, why did the writer write it then? Why were they in a position to be thinking about these things even if they were ahead of their time? Okay, I've talked a lot today. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you guys get something out of this like I have just from doing the script reading. Again, let me know if you want to see freelance script coverage from me. It's something I'm really, really excited about, so I hope you guys are too. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so I know that I'm making the kind of content you want to see on my channel. If you want to see any other videos like this or anything else, let me know in the comment section. And if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and press the bell so you don't miss any of my new videos. I get them up every week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.